Hey, Pastor David here. I wanted to answer the question, what was the sin that caused the fall? And the sin that caused the fall was the eating of the forbidden fruit by Adam and Eve. This world that God had created in Genesis 1 was very good in all of its aspects. The people were very good. They'd been placed in a beautiful, bountiful, enjoyable world and commissioned by God to take care of it, cultivate it, rule over it, under his authority. So he told them to recognize his authority by not eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve instead disregard God's authority, disrespect him in the world he's made. They reach out from under his authority and take what was not theirs to take. They transgress or cross. They sin against God's will and what he's called them to be. This sin spurs or ignites what's called the fall. And that's really, we could think about it as just a fall from the good, beautiful, innocent position that God had placed mankind in. And the fall brings with it the curse of creation. So Adam and Eve, they are the leaders of, they're the vice rulers of what God has created. And when they reject God's authority, when they disregard God's authority in the world he made, they bring with them, tumbling out of that good and enjoyable, beautiful state, all of creation. So we talk about sin causing the fall. And at the heart of that is the fact that Romans tells us that death came into the world through sin. The division and destruction, the disintegration of our world around us, the million little ways that we see decay and that the world is not the way it's supposed to be, are evidences of that what started with Adam and Eve sinning by eating the forbidden fruit that God had told them not to eat. What was the sin that caused the fall? Basically, it was the sin of eating the forbidden fruit when God had called them not to eat it. Now, this may sound like kind of a ridiculous thing. I don't know if you think about it, you go, man, eating a fruit, it must have been some powerful fruit. No, it wasn't magical fruit that dramatically all of a sudden reshaped the world into this broken place that it is. What it was the fundamental rejection of God's authority that went on to grab that fruit and eat it, to disregard God's authority in the world he made. God is the one who gave us everything. And the way I think it'd be helpful for us to think about this is that God gave us our lives and every good portion of our lives, right? And when we disrespect and disregard him in the world he made, when we push him out of our lives, eventually he is going to take back what he gave us, our lives and all of the good blessings that he has been patient to give us to show his character. So the Bible says that the payment for sin is death. The unworking of sin is the destruction and disintegration, the decay of creation. So the first sin may not be a dramatically grotesque thing in our perspective. We think, well, Adam and Eve didn't murder anyone. There was no rape. There was no genocide or racism. No, what they did was the core of every sin. They disregarded God in the world he'd made. They pushed aside the Creator to rule themselves. So the sin that caused the fall was the sin of eating the forbidden fruit by Adam and Eve.
Praise the mountain fixed upon